With me is a rock star chief minister from a beautiful state of Northeast, Meghalaya. So here's presenting Shri Conrad Sangma, Honorable Chief Minister of Assam. Thank you so much, sir, for making it to Delhi, making it to Delhi today, sir. Thank you so much. So I'll begin with some legacy politics. So your father, late P.A. Sangma ji, was a great politician and a people's person, I'll rather say, and served as a fourth chief minister, then Speaker of the Lok Sabha, held many cabinet ministerial posts. So, in fact, fought the presidential election also against Pranab Mukherjee. So my first question to you is, how do you weigh the positives and negatives of having an influential political legacy?
There are, yes, both sides to it. The first side, of course, is that I was into public life at a very young age and exposed to a lot of public life, simple aspects of how to meet people, greet people. So, of course, having somebody like late P.A. Sangma being your mentor and your kind of guide, I think those aspects were very, very positive for me as an individual. Just the smiles that he used to have for the people, the shaking hand, the joking. And of course, from a political thought process also, he is very important because he put in the basic ideas of the beliefs that I have today are, in politics especially, are based on his ideas. And third, of course, is that an institutional or an organizational or a political network and a system which he created for many, many years, that is something we were able to take it from that point in time and move it ahead. So that's what, in a nutshell, is the positive side. But the negative side, of course, I won't say negative, but I guess the pressure and the expectations are really what are the difficult side. You are frequently compared, which is really, he's like at a different league completely. And we are nowhere close to how he was and the different charisma and different qualities he had. So that comparison obviously is always there, which makes it difficult sometimes. And and those challenges will always be there. So it's plus and minus, but I guess we'll have to just take it from both angles and just keep focusing on the work that we have to do and take it forward.
Sir, with the majority government in Meghalaya, 7 MLAs in Manipur, 5 each in Arunachal and Nagaland. So NPP is truly a party with a respectable presence across the northeastern states. Unlike some parties who have great history but have become history now, regional parties. So what is the key strategy behind this expansion? Are you planning to be the next Chandrababu Naidu of India?
Number one is that there is really not, the strategy is not as important, I think, as the commitment, the hard work, the perseverance, the passion. A lot of parties have got their ideas and their goals and objectives cut out. But it is the continuity that is really important. And in the face of all challenges, difficulties, complications of regional politics, MLAs joining, leaving, people joining, leaving, ups and downs of losing elections. What matters more is the commitment you show to moving forward. Again, I come back to late P.A. Sangma. I have seen that commitment in him, and I've learned that at least that one bit of quality from him that he had also instilled and taught, that we need to continue no matter what the challenge comes in. Once you have decided to work on a path, that path should drive you to move forward and to be committed to what you're doing. And I think that is what is key, number one. Number two, Chandrababu Naidu ji is a very tall figure. I have great deal of respect for him. the way he had started the transformation in then Andhra Pradesh and Hyderabad, and the kind of vision he has, and I've seen him speak in many occasions. Number one, it's unfair to compare a legend and a person like that to a person of my stature. Number two, it's I think important to note that it's not about your personal ambitions. So I would not want to go into that. I think we get things wrong when we start with what is it for me, or where do I come, or how do I achieve that objective, or where do I see myself. I think that follows. That follows. What is important is the larger goal. What do we see, or where do we see the region of the Northeast? Where do we see Meghalaya? Where do we see the indigenous people? And how do we see Northeast playing a critical role in the growth story of the nation? I think that is what is important. And if our heart and mind is focused on the right objectives, other things will follow. Positions may come, may not come. That is something that is not fully under our control. But I think that's the kind of line I would look at, that it is more about the larger picture and objective of the people, the region, and the country, rather than your own personal goal of saying that I would like to see myself there that day.
Okay, sir. Then with your performance in Meghalaya, Manipur, Arunachal, Nagaland, when do you plan to engage more proactively in taking your party inside Assam? You have minimal presence, but the cadre base, there's a lot of hard work that needs to go in.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And we have seen that Assam is obviously a much more bigger state, much more complicated state, and many factors are involved in that. And so therefore we need to plan it in a much more better manner. We already have a lot in our hands to take care of, and of course I have to run a full state, and the party also in the last 6-7 years we have seen a lot of growth. So it's not that simple. We need to see that we can organically move forward. In politics, timing is very important. So we need to also see the right timing so that we are able to see the correct positioning of different factors that are there and then move in. For example, as I said, in Manipur, 2017, if you remember and recall, we got 4 MLAs. I was not chief minister then. I had just taken over the party. And I have got 4 MLAs. And the UPA bloc, as to say the Congress bloc, had roughly 28, plus minus. And the NDA bloc had 28. And NPP had 4. So wherever NPP went, the government would have been formed. So hence the timing was such that NPP played a very crucial role at that election. In this election in 2022, we got close to 17% of votes and 7 MLAs.
Right.
But we had no role to play in the government formation because of the timing and the situation that is there. So hence all of these factors are important. But yes, to coming to your point, we do intend to move in. And we will see how to move in to cover at least the Northeast region, because we strongly feel that the presence of the party in the largest state, which is Assam, is also very, very important.
Sir, there was an alliance coined in 2016 called NEDA, Northeast Democratic Alliance. And that alliance was a greater alliance for cooperation, coordination between the Northeastern states. My question to you is, we have very senior leaders like the Nagaland Chief Minister, you are in your 2nd term, and there are other leaders also from the Northeastern states. So, and you as a president of NPP has a presence in other Northeastern states too. So have you ever explored the idea of leading NEDA?
In maybe about 15, 20 years back, I don't know if you recall, late P.S. Sangmaji, Mr. Chamling, Mr. Zoramthanga, and Mr. Rio had in fact floated the idea of NEDA.
Right.
And they had in fact tried to even come together because it is important. It is important for the region. So it's not an idea that came in just recently. It's been an idea which has been floating around for a very long time. That among the internal differences and maybe objectives and goals of your specific community or state, there is a larger picture of the Northeast which matters. So that's where the idea came, and it's still moving forward. NEDA, of course, formalized it and structured it and gave a connection with the national government, and that is very, very important to really give it shape. Regarding who leads it or who convenes the NEDA, I guess is not as important personally to me as the impact or the effectiveness of an organization or a platform. And to be very, very frank, I've seen that we have not been able to push the objective of NEDA in the right direction. So yes, we meet once in a while and we give a lot of speeches and everything. But I think it's more important that in critical times, NEDA leaders should meet, should discuss, and take the objective of NEDA forward, which is really to represent the people of the Northeast and take up issues of the Northeast which are common to all and in the larger interest of the region. So that has not happened. Who leads is, again, not important. Again, I come back to my initial point. It's not about the individual goal.
Picture.
It's the larger picture of the organization in the region.
Okay. So there was, during the monsoons this time, Guwahati had severe flood issues. And this brings me to an issue called USTM. So University of Science and Technology, which is in Riboy district of your state. So there are many terminologies floated. Maybe true, false, that's not my prerogative to judge it. But I'll just put forward it's a part of your state. So that's why I'm putting forward the questions. So these are very straight questions. Does USTM have all the required permissions to construct a campus of this magnitude? Yes or no?
Absolutely. They have taken all the necessary permissions that need for the construction and the overall setting up of a university of this level. And I must also put on record that USTM is doing an excellent job. And they are one of the premier educational institutions of our state. And I've seen the kind of commitment they have shown. Other issues aside, which of course you can debate and and discuss, but I think at the core of the point being that, are they doing what they're supposed to do? Are they giving the quality education to the students who are there? Is the infrastructure, the research that's taking place, what an education institution is supposed to do, are they doing or not? And it's an absolute yes. They're doing an excellent job, and I must congratulate the entire team. And also to answer to your question, that all the necessary permissions as per the rules and regulations that are there, whether it's from the Deputy Commissioner, whether it's from the state government, or whether it's from any agency, all have been taken. Of course, regarding the issue of any kind of environmental issues that are there, you are aware that education institutions are exempted from that permission. So it's not necessary for them to take that permission, but they have to follow certain regulations and norms, which is what they have been very much following. So I just want to clarify that also.
Okay. My next question is, if needed, would you defend USTM considering the permissions are in order?
I've already defended them.
No,
so it's not about defending anybody. It's not about taking sides or saying that, well, this is right or this is it's really about stating facts.
Right.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I'm here to state facts to you. I'm here to tell you what contributions they have made in the past many years, and also I have huge expectations. And I'm very sure and confident that they'll have many more contributions in the coming years. Having said that, again, there could be concerns, there could be issues. Yes, they should be looked into. There should be any issues that are there that needs to be improved. Definitely we can sit down and discuss and then figure out how, if there are concerns that are affecting maybe adjoining areas and all, and if there are certain measures that need to be taken, all of those areas are open for discussion. So I think those are areas which we cannot like put in the current situation and say that, oh, you know, what's happening. Yes, those are discussions that we can have, but the fact of the matter is the permissions that are required and the, you know, the procedures have been followed by the university.
Sir, coming to another bigger trade from the mineral-rich Meghalaya, I heard your dialogues on how the abrupt ban on coal mining affected the state economy. And what is this scientific coal mining that you keep advocating about? And what about the small miners? The new SOP says that you have to have 100 acres of land. And I think you have 85% of small miners rather than only 15% of the big miners who can afford to do a scientific mining and have a 100-acre land. So how do you respond to that, sir?
So first and foremost, the mining that procedure and the process that used to take place in Meghalaya, these were the traditional miners and practices going on for decades, if not centuries. And that is how it was happening even before the independence of our nation. 2014, NGT came and said, well, this is not scientific, and they banned it. Before 2014, there was no issue of any scientific or non-scientific. So it's not me who has coined the term. It has been coined by NGT and Government of India. But my point is that when it comes to processes like that, it's like what we're seeing today in climate change. You know, so many organizations come in suddenly because of the climate aspect. You know, there's a knee-jerk reaction. And suddenly you just start saying, well, this is not allowed, this is allowed. And for many, many years, you know, things had been going fine. But suddenly you come in and say you ban it. Now, what happened in 2014, if you ask me, very, very frankly, was incorrect. It was not fair at all. Something that you've been doing for 100 years and practicing it, and lakhs of lives when they're responsible for it. If you find that procedure is wrong, you must give time to correct those measures and procedures and say that, well, look, in 5 years' time, you're going to stop these things. So please adjust. Yeah. And 10 years' time, these measures will be put in place. So please stop these. And in 15 years' time, it will not be allowed at all. The time frame can change. But what I'm saying is that you need to be giving a justified transition period for a particular activity to come in, and that's what's happening around the world. So what happened in 2014 was unfair. Not only did it affect the local people, it affected the revenues of the state. Now, having said that again, we have accepted it. We suffered for 5 to 6 years. We went to Supreme Court. We got the ban on the mining lifted. And we approached Government of India based on Supreme Court's orders that you can now apply and you have to go for scientific process. Now, the problem with this was, I'm sorry, this is a long answer because it's an important question. The problem was that in our state, the land and the resources below it belong to the landowner. You see, that's a Supreme Court ruling. And that's the constitutional provision, and Supreme Court has ratified it. So, now when you go and apply for the mining procedures, they have to be specially crafted for Meghalaya because the land holding systems are different. All those procedures actually were looked into. And while we were going into this complicated network and complicated situation of getting the scientific mining, creating policies and programs to and rules to adjust to the conditions and land holding system in Meghalaya, this issue of 100 acres was coming in. Now, for me, I can deal with the 100 acres maybe at the second phase, because if I bring in the 100 acres now and say, well, reduce it to 5 acres or 2 acres or 1 acre, then the process starts again from zero. And then again we discuss. So we were already at 10, 11, 12 phase of getting the paperwork done when this issue kind of came to light, because there's so many factors in there, so many organizations, agencies, ministries to discuss with. So when we were already at a phase where we were closer to getting all our rules and everything passed, this issue came up. So we had to take a call whether we will again start from zero and again take another 3 years, or let's at least finish this phase, start a few, and then we again take up this matter with Government of India. So now just to share with you that the scientific processes are not defined by us. They're defined by Government of India, by the Coal Ministry, by the technical agencies, and the Mining Ministry. So all those things are involved. IBM and others are involved in India Bureau of Mining. Yeah. So all those agencies are involved. So they define the scientific process, and we are now through with 99% of the procedure. Now the last phase for few of the mines, where just the state has to follow certain procedures to give the CTE and CTO and give the pollution clearances, only that process is now left. So we are very sure that within a short span of time, we should be able to start at least some of the mines under scientific process.
Sir, we have noticed a very systematic branding of Shillong as with the music hub of India. From filming the Bollywood movie Rock On to then hosting big names from Hollywood and Bollywood like Bryan Adams, Akon, Alan Walker in 2024. So what is the idea of marketing Shillong with music? Do you think it's a bubble tourism? It's only limited?
No, that is the idea.
So it's a bubble.
Marketing of tourism is an industry which is sensitive in nature.
Right.
You have to accept that. If there is COVID, the first industry to suffer was tourism, and the last industry to recover was tourism. If you have law and order situation, again, the first industry to affect is tourism, and the last to recover is tourism. So tourism has always been in that particular part of the chart where you have the most kind of affected sectors. So one cannot be looking at any strategy and say, well, this is going to be sustainable in the long run. Of course, sustainability factors can change, and can be flexible. And I totally agree that when it comes to music, is it the only pillar or only vertical on which we'll push tourism? Absolutely not. There will be many verticals, many foundations, many areas which tourism should push. Music is one of the factors that drives it. So when you drive it, the tourists will come, they will see the music scene. Then we need to ensure that when they come and they are part of the Bryan Adams show, then, well, why didn't you go to Cherrapunji? Why didn't you go to, the caves? Why didn't you go to the waterfalls? So it is about packaging and connecting different sectors and activities with the push of the music sector. Why music is important also is not just because it pulls the crowd. Shillong has a brand name for such music. So we are just using that brand name to our advantage and taking it to another level, you can say. And third and final point being that music is very much in our blood. And we have, everybody loves music in Shillong. So and Meghalaya at large. So not just does it, invite and bring people from outside, but it also in a way gives an opportunity for our local artists, our local musicians to also showcase their talent. And I think that is something that's very important.
Sir, when we talk about tourism, what we have seen a larger chunk of tourists visiting Meghalaya, they're confined to Shillong and mostly the Police Bazaar area, and to an extent Cherrapunji or Shillong Peak side. How do you plan to promote tourism beyond Shillong and Cherrapunji? Obviously, you are a larger state, East Khasi Hills, the other side, the Garo Hills. So we don't see much traction there.
No, in fact, it's not the case at all. The traction is there. But it's just that for us also, Shillong and Cherrapunji happen to be the most visible names there in the market. So therefore, the visibility in the national market and international market is something we use to our advantage. Because when you say Cherrapunji, every individual knows that it's the, well, it's not anymore, but it's the wettest place. It was the wettest place, at least when you were in school, you were reading. So therefore, we realize that these kind of points that are stuck in the memory of of people must be used to pull the tourist attention towards Meghalaya and make it unique, different from others. And then ride on that and then connect it. So therefore, if you look at our strategy now, many rural areas are being pushed. Large number of tourists, as soon as they reach Shillong and Cherrapunji, they say, "Arey, ab kahan jaye? Ab kya kare?" And we are ready with the answer for that. I'm not saying we have got everything set up, but we have a master plan in which we are doing that. So whether it is the entire surrounding area and the 50 square kilometers around Cherrapunji, around Shillong, whether it's the Umiam Lake or whether it's the living root bridges, whether it's the caves of Meghalaya. We have one of the longest caves in India and in fact in Southeast Asia. So all of these aspects are being developed, and you're correct that we cannot just simply leave it to just Shillong and Cherrapunji, but that is exactly the strategy that you pull with your USPs, that the unique selling points, and then with this USP, you get into a hub and spoke model, where then the spokes are the different places which you develop, which is what we're doing now.
All the Northeastern chief ministers, they're in a very sweet spot because all of them are hardcore regional regional players also, who think for the betterment of the state first. They want to do something extra for their state. So in that context, can the Northeast Chief Minister sit together and derive a logistically convenient yet sustainable tourism circuit which can directly connect maybe Shillong to Kaziranga and maybe Kohima to Aizawl and Aizawl to back to Kaziranga or to Kohima or to Dimapur? It becomes, because when anyone visits Northeast, so they have a time frame of a week of holiday maybe. So they land in Guwahati, take 1 or 2 days off to Kaziranga, come back to Guwahati, again go to Shillong, do a little touch points here and there, they'll come back. 1 week is over. More than the holiday, it becomes it's more of traveling involved. Every way, it's 2 to 3 hours drive. And for if we can lessen this time and connect these dots and create a more sustainable circuit, don't you think all the northeastern states can benefit out of it?
You have a point, absolutely correct. That is, in fact, how in the long run, we have to ensure that we package and provide the tourist a complete experience of Northeast. We see ourselves obviously as separate states and having our unique culture and tourism areas of interest. But for a tourist coming in from abroad or coming in from the rest of India, they look at Northeast as Northeast and they would like to see multiple locations. So that thought process, what you've said, is absolutely on the right track. And just to share with you, it's happening. You see, today, if you look at the connectivity between the cities, because of the Udan scheme of Government of India, it's already happening. There was a time when we used to travel by bus. I remember as a young entrepreneur traveling in 2000, 2001, 2002 by bus to Imphal. It used to take 20 hours. Yeah. And today it's like 40 minutes of a flight to Imphal, to Dimapur. So this inter-regional connectivity that has happened is already a step towards what you are saying should be done, needs to be done. Where the importance comes in is actually the industry. And we've been speaking to the industry, the travel agents, you see. They need to package. Now, for example, every state is doing their part. We've been talking to travel agents to tell them that you have to be the focal point that then packages the entire network and then makes that package, because it's available now. There are different locations available, there are different flight connectivities available, roads are in a far more better condition. Of course, a lot of work to be done, but we're far better than what we were before. My point being that somebody has to aggregate this. And government necessarily cannot aggregate everything. So the entrepreneurs, the travel agents, they play a very important role in aggregating this, and their role should come in. Chief ministers, in fact, you'll be quite surprised and happy to know we talk to each other about this. And we tell, like, oh, you're having this particular festival on this date. Okay, I will not overlap it with my festival. Okay. Then we'll have, 2 days later so that somebody goes to place A for a festival. Then they can fly to, our festival so that the connectivity and continuity is there. So we do talk at an unofficial level to ensure that the festivals don't collide. Sometimes we can't help it because the dates don't match. But we do, at an unofficial level, talk and ensure that we don't, get into each other's space in one way. But I think at the end of the day, the larger responsibility lies with the private sector to be able to package it and, and bring all these locations and places together. Because government can do its part, but as I said, the travel agent will play a very crucial role. So your idea is great. I will also take a cue from that. I will speak to the chief ministers even more often. We'll have more discussion among the tourism departments. But as I said, governments can do to a certain level. Right. Larger section has to be done by the private sector.
So since we are from Assam, I have a question, and this is personal also. So people of Meghalaya can buy land in Assam. There's no stopping there. Then why can't people of Assam buy a piece of real estate in Meghalaya? Yeah, do you think it's fair?
A lot of things are not fair in life. But again, this is something that our forefathers, our our senior leaders, when we got the statehood, they were very particular. And they had gone for this Land Transfer Act issue. In Land Transfer Act, the act to be put in there. At the same time, if you're aware that we are in a 6th schedule area, in the tribal area, and really it was to protect the tribal, identity. It was to protect the tribal land. It was to protect the people more so. And if you ask me, looking back at what was done, this most probably may be one of the best decisions that was made by our leaders then, which has ensured that the identity of the tribals has remained. The land is our major identity in one way. Of course, our dress, our cultures, our festivals are very, very important. But when in the absence of land, and it has been shown in many, many nations, in many states, that the land has been the reason why ultimately the identity of indigenous people has gone. So if you ask me, it may not sound fair from the other side, if I may, but when you look at it from our people's point of view, I still maintain that it was one of the most important decisions and one of the best decisions that were taken, which has ensured that the identity is maintained. It has got its own repercussion and negative side. We have a lot of challenges. Government has challenged. We don't have land. We have to buy land to expand. We are going for Shillong city, the administrative city and the knowledge city now. I have to buy land as a government. So government does not own land. Investments who want to come in, the largest and the first question they ask, Jameen kahan hai? So we have to then buy industrial areas and then give it to them. But then I guess nothing is perfect. No solution or no decision you take will have impact that will make everybody happy. But I think if you look back at this decision, as I said, I repeat that it was one of the most important and best decisions that was taken, and I still stand by that decision. But yes, it's not always fair.
Sir, Shillong was the capital of undivided Assam until 72. And now, Dispur being the capital, the states are divided their boundaries. But certain tensions on the boundary disputes is persistent since then till now. I've seen your dialogues with your Assam counterpart, where you have identified some 12 critical areas, out of which 6 are resolved, I presume, and 6 are critical, which you are in talks with. Do you have a status update which you would like to share from this podium? And how soon can this be resolved? Because there are a lot of lives at stake. There's land. Land is a sentimental value for everyone.
Absolutely. In the last 52 years, since Meghalaya state was formed, before my government, the chief ministers and the chief secretaries had met, that is Assam and Meghalaya, chief ministers and chief secretaries had met 26 plus times. I can't remember exactly the total number, but definitely 25 plus times they had met. In those meetings, there was only one decision that was taken, and that is, we will maintain status quo. Now, we all realize that this is maybe one of the most complicated problems that Assam and Meghalaya have, and we need to, resolve these issues. But it is not easy. But it was this government, and of course the current government in Assam, we decided that let's give it a try. So for the first time in the history of the two states, we are actually giving our best efforts to resolve a problem which was unresolvable for the last 50 years. And it's not easy. Now, just to show you why it's not so easy, that the areas of differences which were identified was even done before we sat. That is right. Mr. Himantaji and myself. Because this report was submitted in 2012. So that report was then accepted that this is now the areas of differences. Whereas still within those areas of differences, there are still differences. But now, since those reports were submitted, it's very difficult for me to tweak those because Assam will say, well, that's what you have given. So that's the first challenge in itself. So we had to take a tough call saying that, well, we are freezing this at those 12 areas. The first 6 locations that we managed to move ahead were relatively simpler. I'm not saying easy, but relatively simpler compared to what we have now. And we have been able to come to some conclusion. Again, I repeat, we will not have a perfect solution, but we should try to move towards the best solution. And that is how we have to look at any problem. And the second phase of the 6 locations, we are going to start discussions very soon. And we will try our best. But as I said, it's very complicated. I don't know where we're heading, but I can only assure the people of both the states that we will give it our best because we also want this to be resolved one way or the other so that these tensions, these loss of lives that we're having and the fear in which the border people are living and these areas of differences is just not fair. That even after 52 years, they still have to worry whether somebody is going to attack them or shoot them or they cannot, go and, work in their paddy field. I think these are things which we need to understand and work towards a solution.
So this is my last question to you. There is a lot of history which stayed back in Shillong, Assamese history, and particularly in the Laban area of Shillong. And there's a sizable Assamese community also who resides there with religious establishments, Namghar, school, etc. So can the government of Meghalaya consider establishing or restoring some kind of historic nature to remind the people of Assam and Meghalaya of the undivided Assam, restoring that history and sending a message of brotherhood that we were all together?
Absolutely. I don't see any issue in that. In fact, long time back, we had discussed with the chief ministers. We were all sitting together, having lunch. And we had started, in fact, with a discussion that we should have one location in somewhere in Guwahati, in Assam, which should act as exactly the cultural meeting point of all Northeast. And different states also should have different cultural aspects and historical significance of the culture of other states, the history that we have been through, to remind people and to respect each other. I'll just give a small example. We have a location in Shillong called Barik Point. I don't know if you're aware. It's right in the center, right next to this, the State Central Library and to the Secretariat. It's a triangular-shaped, land. And it used to house the PWD office. We have decided to make that into a unity park. And I have just hoisted a 120 feet Indian flag out there. And my idea is to make that into a point of cultural, involvement and cultural focus, where exactly the points you're mentioning now, the history of Meghalaya, the cultures of the Northeast, how we were part of Assam at one point in time, what was the cultural significance of that. Not only that, I want every chief minister and every state to send me some artifact or some kind of a painting or some kind of a poem or whatever, to put it somewhere in that park, which will again signify the importance or give some historical background of that particular state or that particular community. So already this unity park concept is coming up, and I can assure you in that park we will have the aspect and small areas, because there are old buildings which are heritage buildings, maybe even 100 years old. So we're not destroying them. We are going to renovate those buildings like the secretary's bungalows there. So I'm going to renovate it and make it into a museum.
Okay.
And in that museum, we will talk about the statehood. We'll talk about how we were part of Assam, how we got the state, the cultural significance, so on and so forth. So we are already planning what you have just mentioned.
Great. So, sir, just one last thing. Before I could get him to the podium, so we were discussing something in the holding group. So he mentioned that Brian Adams is coming to Shillong, and he said, I'm going to play for him because I have to cut his fees. He's charging way too much. So, sir, can we have a trial here, if you can show us?
Number one, again, as I said, I mean, on a joking note, since we were mentioning that, I am also performing. So I said that, that Brian Adams is going to cut his fees because I'm going to play the guitar for him, which is not true, by the way. It's just a joke because sometimes some people take it too seriously. But on the other hand, if you want me to sing, then
yes, then
I'll have to charge a fees, right? Yeah, so you have to pay the artist to play. So I'm just joking. but I request, let us keep this on a serious note on the important issues. I'm very happy with the kind of questions you've asked, and the kind of importance you've given. I must congratulate the entire team that has made this happen. I think this should happen more often, and I think it's very important that we involve the mainstream also in one way, I should say. We should involve our bureaucrats, officials, important people in society from the capital also to be part of these discussions, because it sends a very strong message. Sometimes just the communication gap itself creates a problem, but I think these kind of programs allows that connection to happen and really open up many opportunities that can come in the future.
Right.
For the music part, I invite you to Shillong, and I would ensure that you are there for the Brian Adams concert. And maybe, just maybe, what I'm saying may come true, that I may have to perform. Great. That, I'll leave it with that. But thank you so much for having me over, and thank you for understanding I prefer not to sing this time.
We all know that Meghalaya is known for its peace and harmony, mostly because of the matriarchal society, matrilineal society that we all have studied. Sir, despite being such a great epitome of a matrilineal society, a female dominant society, so why women are lagging behind in Meghalaya politics?
First thing is that it's a question, of course, which is very complicated. There's no one answer to this. But we have seen that when it comes to the political participation, we have seen that women themselves, are not always very keen to come forward in electoral politics. We try to promote, we try to push, we try to get in people, but it's not always the easiest thing. Because maybe that's how in a society that structure is there, we find that the ladies and the female, maybe the head of the in terms of the matrilineal society, they are the head, but you will see the male taking the more of the decisive kind of decisions, or even in the political angle being there as a leader or being the candidate. So it's a natural thing. one cannot just simply look at this aspect and say that, women are lagging behind in politics, because it's not about politics in terms of electoral politics alone. I think a lot needs to be looked into the decision making. What drives the system and what drives governance, what drives important aspects of decision making within that village or society and the state as a whole. And in that, if you look at it, because of our matrilineal system, not saying it's perfect, but because of the matrilineal system, the participation is slightly higher. Simply because of social status that is there. So they do play an important role. For us as a government, for example, we have taken a very important decision that 50% of the posts in your VECs, which is the Village Employment Councils, that's the Manrega community, the setup, 50% is reserved for women. So, so you will see that about close to 3,000 women are either secretaries or presidents of the Village Development Economic Committee, and they play a very important role at the grassroots, political aspect and development programs like Manrega. So, it's, as I said, it's a very complex issue. Try to answer it in whatever way I could in the short period that you've given to me, but if you ask me, this should be discussed in a much more larger scale as the one single topic, and then we should bring everybody on board, because at the end of the day, it is very important. At the end of the day, we need to push. But again, I repeat that one cannot just look at it from electoral politics point of view of counting the MLAs or counting the MDCs or counting the MPs. Politics, as I said, is about a system, a society, a network, and who and which groups play an important role in the decision making and influencing, I think has to be seen in its own totality.
Second question from about music, Rifa Sania Borbora.
The music culture of Northeast India still remains very underrated, with many artists and bands having the potential to go international. So, as the CM of a state with such rich folk and rock music culture, and also as a musician yourself, what are your plans or reflections in mainstreaming and promoting this rich heritage of Meghalaya, or let's say the northeastern states in general? And by the way, I'm a big fan of your guitar solos.
Good
Thank
question.
you. Thank you so much. With that note, if there is any musician here who can strum a few chords and sing a few songs, I think your first desire would be that I just wish I could stand here and play for this crowd. Or I wish I could be in India Gate standing there and, the government would allow me to sing, perform. I wish I could take this music talent of mine and make it into a career. And that's the same thought I had when I was like 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. I just started picking up the guitar. This is in Shillong, by the way. So when that happened, there was nothing. Forget playing somewhere. I mean, we didn't even have a guitar. When I became Chief Minister in 2018, those memories were still there in my mind that I wish I could play for the crowd. And hence, I started a program for our youth called the Meghalaya Grassroots Music Program. Today, we have close to 3,000 artists, and they're just simple musicians. We pay them anything from 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 per performance to play in different tourist spots, cafes, different government programs on a regular basis. And this has now really caught on. So if you go to Shillong, you'll find, just randomly you'll see somebody playing a guitar out there in Police Bazaar. That's the Meghalaya Grassroots Music Program. So not only are we giving them an opportunity to sing and to play and to show their talent, we are paying them to do that. Now what happens because of that? It's just a simple decision. But then, as you said, it brings out the opportunity that is there. And today what's happening, you'll be happy to know that Hard Rock Cafe has tied up with us. And today, because of that Hard Rock Cafe tying up with us, we have, from the grassroots music program, we are sending artists to the 18 or 20 locations that Hard Rock Cafe has throughout the country, where Meghalaya talent and Meghalaya youngsters are today playing in Hard Rock Cafe in different parts of the country. I mean, I wish this was there during my time when I was a musician then. I would be like thrilled if I could go to Hard Rock Cafe and play. But I guess that's what destiny has it. If I would have been a rock star and not a politician today. So maybe that's how it was meant to be. But these are just examples of what we are doing. But music is going to be very, very crucial. So my next step for grassroots music program is to now give the talent a certification. You see? Now, our musicians are good, but they are not certified musicians. They can't read music, they can't write, they can only hear and play. So we want to professionalize the music now. So I want each of these 3,000, 5,000 artists to start doing that. Next level is to promote recording. So I'm putting up under a program that I've started called CM Elevate, which is an entrepreneurship program. I am planning to put up large number of recording studios, which will allow these young artists to come out with their own music and record it. So on and so forth, distribution of music instruments at school level, college level. So music is a very important part of a strategy of mine to engage the youth of Meghalaya, because youth energy engagement and directing the energy of the youth in the right direction is critical for my state, for the Northeast, and for the country as a whole, because that's when we can use this energy and potential of our youth in the constructive, work for our country. So if you think there is going to be just things will happen, no, it will not. Our youth, I repeat, is our greatest strength and our greatest challenge. We need to invest in our youth, otherwise the youth will become a destructive force. But if we invest in them and direct them in the right direction, they will be the biggest constructive force of our nation. And that is the vision and thought with which we are moving forward. And music is a very important pillar. I have a lot of criticism when it comes to music in my own state. People say, kya kar rahe ho? What is this? Why are we spending so much money on this? But it's a much bigger objective than just music. It's really about channelizing the energy of our youth.
So according to NITI Aayog report of 2024, Meghalaya is the poorest state in India, just after Jharkhand and Bihar. So what are your steps to resolve this? And my second question was that the driver dispute between the Meghalaya drivers and the Assam drivers. The Assam number plates, cars were not allowed to enter Meghalaya. So what are your steps to resolve those things?
So there are two questions. First, I will start with the NITI Aayog. You see, governance is a process. A decision you take today not necessarily gives you a result tomorrow. You invest in different policies. Of course, it starts with, first of all, identifying where the problem lies. Now, when we say that we are in the bottom of the economic level, that is a result of the problems that we face. The problems could be multiple. It could be infrastructural issues, it could be policy issues, it could be investment in entrepreneurs, it could be the health issues, education, so on and so forth. Once we crack down on what really leads to these kind of results and the outcomes, we need to then define policies, measures, and interventions to then target to improve those things. For example, I was speaking about this a lot, maternal mortality rate. Meghalaya in 2018 had the highest maternal mortality rate. And we used to look at that as a problem, but not realizing or not expressing that that is a result or an outcome of the problem. Now, what are those problems? Problems are like, the health of the mother. The fact that the food and the high-risk aspects. So, in any given time, the approximately about, close to 10,000 mothers out of the 30,000 at any given time, I'm just doing plus minus, are always high risk because of their history, because of the food that they did not eat or the nutrition that they should have got before they were actually pregnant. Then we had a problem because we realized that the spacing between the births was too much, too less. For example, there were some mothers who were 23, 24 years old and giving birth to their fifth child. That means every year they were giving birth and getting pregnant. That's not good for a mother. Then we realized that institutional deliveries are important, but the care that you give them 15, 20 days, 30 days before the institutional delivery is maybe even more critical. And then, so what I'm trying to say is that these kind of fine diagnosis of the problem is very critical. Once we started doing this, again, you'll be happy to know, we started improving the overall nutrition for the mothers. Of course, it goes beyond that because we have to start the nutrition even before they get pregnant. So that aspect is going to come at a later stage for us. But even now, while they're pregnant, we are ensuring that the nutrition is improved. We are ensuring that we have created over 200 safe motherhood homes where all the high-risk mothers are urged to come and stay 15, 20 days before delivery. And we give them nutritional food, we give them medical care, we give them financial help to come and stay there. We have vehicles to take them to the institutional setup, be the sub-center or PHC, CHC to drop them. Now, this started in 2019. And today, 2024, we have maternal mortality rate dropped by almost 50% in our state. It is the highest that any state has seen, in that short period of time. What I'm trying to tell you is, these numbers that you're seeing, I cannot change these numbers in one night. It's a process. And this intervention that I mentioned to you in maternal mortality is one intervention. Like that, there are multiple interventions in multi-sectoral, multi-dimensional ways on all the different. So it's a huge matrix. If you come sometimes, I'll show it to you. And we know exactly what's happening. Now these investments are showing results. So as I said, we didn't have that kind of a system in place. We didn't have the right diagnosis. And we didn't have the capacity to take the implementation or action to actually make the difference. I'm very sure that the work that we have done now will start reflecting in the new numbers that will come in. Some of these numbers that are coming in are surveys of 2020, 2021, 2022. It's still at that stage when we had just started the interventions. The numbers of what maternal mortality that I'm talking now is 2024, which I have, but the NFS does not have that. So when they come up with their numbers are 2021. It looks like I'm trying to give an excuse, but trust me, it's not. You will see that 2 years later, when the new surveys come up, you will see what I mean, when the actual numbers will start reflecting, because we already know that the impact is there. The second question which you said about the taxis, it's a natural livelihood issue. I think it's not something that we should be too surprised about. Of course, is it correct? Well, it may not be correct in its totality. And should it be resolved? Yes, it should be resolved. Complication is that everybody looks at their livelihood. Everybody would like to see that their livelihood is secured. And everybody would like to see that, why are they snatching away our livelihood? So it's a natural feeling that anybody could have. And it's not something that is wrong to have that feeling. But is the measure or the steps that they want us to take, is that justifiable, is the question. So to resolve this issue, the solution may not be that we stop vehicles, at the border and people just, have to change the vehicles and taxis. There could be other ways in which, some model of sharing revenue or discussion where we could have some kind of, mechanism to then support each other. So these kind of areas need to be explored. So it's not so simple, but I am very clear that solution is not to bifurcate the regions, because then both sides lose, which means that when a taxi from Meghalaya's Shillong is going, then he or she will be stopped in Banihat, and you cannot drop all the way to the airport. So, well, it'll have a reaction from Assam side also, and if you stop those vehicles there, then the Assam vehicles also will be stopped in Banihat. And I think it's not healthy for the sector, for the region, for tourism, and I think it'll look quite odd for the tourist also to see, ki kya ho raha hai? Why am I being asked to get out of my vehicle? So I think there are ways to address it. It requires much more deliberation, and that's the reason I've put up a small committee asking all stakeholders, please give me your suggestions. I want to resolve this, but stopping vehicles may not be the best solution. And if you do want us to do it, be ready for the repercussions. So that's where we are. It's a process. We hope we'll be able to reach some conclusion, but we're working on it. Give us some time.
Thank you, sir. That's the end of my Q&A session. Over to Rishi Barua.
Thank you, sir, for being here with us